Hopefully that's better. Rebound. There we go. All right. Anyway, beep, 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 beep. Yeah, I don't care about the mayor being arrested, to be honest. It's a small story. I mean, it's whatever, but it's a small story. Autumn. I saw the story, but I don't care. No one cares. I mean, on a national level, nobody cares that a mayor got arrested. I don't mean to be rude, but it's not a news story. A mayor got arrested protesting Trump's immigration policies. So what? You know, if you're in that city, it's nice news. But nationally, it's not a big story. I don't want to be mean, but it's true. It's just not a big story. Yeah, no, it's okay. I don't mind. I just sort of am letting you know I am aware of the story and I thought about it, but on a national level or an international level, it's not like Bill Gates calling Elon Musk a killer. You know what I mean? Like that was a pretty big story. You get what I'm saying? Yeah. Anyway, I know YouTube needs to be Google needs to turn YouTube off and on again. Oh, what a surprise. The Palestinians are coming to interrupt our broadcast. There's a surprise. Always winning friends and winning friends and influencing people, our Palestinian friends, trying to interrupt my broadcast like they do every day. Yeah. You're winning folks over big time. I measure a story by 40 years of experience doing this, writing for The Economist, among other. It's hard to explain. I have a very good news gut. As a writer and a journalist and other, you just kind of learn what's news and what isn't. This is sort of one of the problems when you, if you're trying to get your story covered by the media is going to look at it, and reporters are all going to have their own gut sense of whether something is news or isn't news. And it's just not news. Good for him. Well, I did write for The Economist magazine out of London. Have you ever heard of it, Archie? By the way, your is Y-O apostrophe R-E. If you're saying you're not a writer, it might help to spell it correctly. So, hey, I like people like Archie, because Archie, I would have never told you that I wrote for The Economist magazine until Archie decided to say, you're not a writer. So now I can tell you I used to write for The Economist, which is a rather famous publication out of London, and a very, very good. You're not a Ritter? Oh, he didn't say Ritter. Did he say Ritter too? Oh, I missed the Ritter too. I saw him write your, Y-O-U-R. Oh, he wrote Ritter too? He goes, you're not a Ritter. W-R-I-T-T-E-R. Oh, well, what do you do? I thought, whatever. All right, guys, let's do a little bit of Ukraine news. All right. We'll talk about Putin. We'll talk about all of that stuff, and then we'll move on from there. Yeah, let's do it. All right. Before I ban Rocky asked, why would anyone listen to you for anything? Because I'm cute. I'm really smart. I know a lot of stuff. I'm funny and entertaining, a little bit bitchy too sometimes. And I tend to get things right. And if you want to know what's going on in the world and you want to hear from somebody who has an uncanny ability to get things right, then you might want to watch the show. But sadly, you're going bye-bye, Rocky. Say hi to Bullwinkle for us. Thank you, Marie. Marie thinks I'm cute too. I'm kidding about the cute thing, so to speak. You know what I mean? I'm saying it for Rocky's benefit. Exactly. I figured the first thing, if somebody says, why should we listen to you? And they're being kind of mean, I figured the first thing to say is, I'm cute. I've got nice eyes. Of course I got a big ego. Who doesn't? Hey, I do a show every day talking to thousands of people around the world on camera. You don't think I have an ego? If I didn't have an ego, I wouldn't be in politics, so to speak, right? I mean, we all have egos. The question is, you got to be in control of your ego, so you're not kind of a jerk about it, Anyway, all right, let's talk about Ukraine. Thank you, Lupita. Thank you, Heather, for the gift. And good hair. Exactly. When I let it grow, I have good hair. Exactly. Thank you for saying that. Yep. It's getting a little difficult when it's short like this, but it's working. All right. Thank you, Al Hassan. I appreciate that. And I can pronounce names like Al Hassan correctly enough. We'll put it that way for an American. So I consider that decent as well. All right, let me move on. Let's talk about Ukraine a couple minutes, and then we'll sort of wrap up, and then we hang out and take. Al Hassan. Exactly. Yeah, Booba. I'm going to say Booba. That'll be my second guess. Let's talk about Ukraine, and then we'll hang out and do our chit chat we normally do. Today is day 1169, I think, of Vladimir Putin's special 3-day military operation in Ukraine. Thank you, Randy Fred. Thank you, Hannah. Lots of Randy Freds. Oh, good. Glad to hear it. Al Kazan. U.S. Embassy. This was interesting. The U.S. Embassy in Ukraine put out a warning that I'm going to read this to you. The U.S. Embassy in Kyiv has received information concerning a potentially significant air attack that may occur at any time over the next several days. That means the U.S. got intelligence that the Russians are planning on basically blowing the crap out of Ukraine, meaning bigger than normal. This is actually fascinating to me. I'm going to sort of go to the next story. Well, let me tell you what the next story is, because this is all one big story here. So the Russians are planning on blowing the crap out of, like having one of those nights where they just kill everybody, where they, 2 or 3 times the number of bombs they normally do, right? Put that in context of the fact that Reuters reports the U.S. and its European allies are finalizing a proposal for a 30-day ceasefire. So Europe and the U.S. together, which is a big deal, right? Coming together with Trump, are finalizing a proposal for a 30-day ceasefire in Ukraine that, if refused by Ukraine or Russia, would see them jointly... Actually, let me rephrase this. Ukraine's already agreed. Ukraine has already agreed to the 30-day ceasefire. If refused by Russia, would see the U.S. and Europe jointly impose new sanctions on Russia, according to the Reuters story. Trump called on Thursday for the 30-day unconditional ceasefire between Russia and Ukraine, and Trump himself came out and warned that Washington and its partners would impose further sanctions if the ceasefire was not respected. This is interesting. So Trump is increasingly threatening Putin. Now, Trump promised he would do this, but he was backing away. During the presidential campaign, Trump said he was going to force Ukraine and Russia to negotiate for peace. And he said anybody who wasn't Russia or Ukraine, if either of them wasn't willing to sit down and truly negotiate, he would come after them. And he said Russia, he would come after them by giving Ukraine a lot more weapons. Ukraine, he'd come after them by cutting off all their weapons if they didn't want to negotiate. Ukraine, now things were bad at first, right? With Ukraine and Trump. That changed in the last, actually, it really changed, I think, at the Pope's funeral. Zelensky met with Trump and must have just gotten on his knees and licked him. I mean, he turned things around with Trump. Okay. Now you've got Trump threatening to put sanctions on Russia. You've got Trump proposing a 30-day ceasefire that Zelensky's already agreed to. At the same time, so you've got Trump moving away from Russia and now threatening Russia with sanctions, which is a big deal because he hasn't been doing that the last couple months. Add to that, at the same time that Trump is getting bitchier towards Russia, okay, and threatening Russia because he doesn't think Russia is serious about peace, the Russians are preparing one of the biggest attacks of the war. They're preparing to just blow Ukraine up, which means killing a lot of civilians. At the same time that Trump is saying, don't you dare, the Russians are daring. That is fascinating to me. That is absolutely fascinating. Actually, Ladd just made a good point too. Things changed in Ukraine when we signed the minerals deal. Actually, that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. Yeah. That I think Trump now feels ownership in Ukraine. He now feels to some degree like Ukraine is doing the right thing, right? But what's fascinating is that Putin keeps basically rubbing Trump's nose in it and keeps saying, screw you. Keep in mind, remember a week ago? One of the things I told you guys a week ago was Putin's spokesman came out and said, this was like the day after the White House had said, the Russians aren't sitting down. They're not negotiating like they should. The Russians came out and said, we should be negotiating with the Ukrainians, not the U.S. Basically, the Russians told Trump to butt out. That was a week ago. So all of this coming together now, Trump can go doop and change his mind in a moment, right? In a second. But at least for right now, Trump is getting fed up with Russia. That's great. Trump is closer to Ukraine. That's great. And the Russians are getting really nasty and sick of Trump. And the Russians feel that they can stand up to Trump, which is fascinating. So let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. So anyway, Nate, you're being trolly. I got to tell you, Nate, every day I still try to figure out if you're a troll or not. You're like, the one thing you're good at getting like a millimeter away from being a troll. You're very, 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 very close. Just telling you. Mods, keep an eye on Nate because I have strong suspicions about Nate, but let's let him be for right now. But if he disrupts things and is here to cause trouble, Nate can go away. Hi, Kay's from Canada. A little bit more news-wise. Following his call with the U.S. president, the new German leader, Friedrich Merz, said there is an opportunity to go beyond this weekend and have a 30-day ceasefire. So the Germans are now publicly calling for the ceasefire as well, which is interesting. Security. Oh, this was interesting. So Putin held his, World War II, blah, 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 festival today in Moscow. I'm not going to go through all the details, but basically Russia has a fetish with World War II. That's really the only way to call it. There's something, I think, messed up with the historical perspective of the Russians on World War II. They act like it was just, I don't care how many people they lost. They act like it was just yesterday. It was 80 years ago. Get over it. They also act like they were the only people to fight in World War II. They like to pretend that they single-handedly won World War II against the Germans when, as I explained yesterday, the Russians were actually allies with the Germans. The Russians actually helped start World War II. The Russians gave the Germans permission to begin World War II and invade their neighbors because the Russians had a secret pact with the Germans and said, don't worry, we won't go to war against you if you invade everybody else. We're going to sit back and let you do it. And the Germans said, oh my God, that's great. Because the Germans were worried about the Russians getting involved and fighting them because they weren't sure if they could take on the Russians and everybody else. When the Russians said, don't worry, go for it, the Germans said, great, we'll invade all our neighbors. So that was Russia. Russia helped start World War II. Russia was allies with the Germans, basically. So I would call them allies going into World War II. And the Germans, 2 years into the war, attacked the Russians. And that's why the Russians went to war with the Germans. They were friends with the Germans. And the Germans stabbed the Russians in the back. Fast forward, the Russians did lose a lot of people fighting the Germans. The only reason really Russia survived the war was because of the Brits and the Americans giving them Lend-Lease, giving them aid. Thank you, Chazak, a huge amount of aid. And then after the war, Russia claims they were the big saviors of Europe. In fact, what Russia doesn't tell you is when the war ended, they grabbed half of Europe, put them under brutal communist dictatorships, and basically killed people in a police state for 45 years in Czechoslovakia, in Romania, in Hungary, in Bulgaria, in East Germany, in Poland. Horrific what the Russians did. Horrific what they did to Europe after World War II. This is not something to laud. It is not something to celebrate. And I will not, because of what the Russians did to Europe. It was horrific. I lived during this time. I visited East Germany. I also visited the Soviet Union. Pretty horrific. Visiting a totalitarian dictatorship is a fascinating thing. I would go to North Korea if I didn't, worry about getting killed. But North Korea would be a fascinating place to visit, but I would never trust going, of course, because it's too dangerous. I wouldn't recommend anybody go to North Korea. But nonetheless, it's fascinating if you can ever, because back in the 1980s, when I went to Russia in 1984, it was actually safe for Americans to go because we were such a grand power that the Russians wouldn't dare touch an American. It really was true. We were totally, now mind you, you don't do anything stupid, right? If you did something stupid, you're going to get arrested. But the idea of an American going into Russia, nobody was going to touch us. So it was a different era than today, of course, in Russia. You can't trust it. In any case, let me get back to this. So Putin is holding his war celebration today. He's got the Chinese leader there, Xi. Michael Clark of Sky News did an analysis of the Chinese leader being there that I thought was interesting. Let me read this to you. Security and defense analyst, Professor Michael Clark, has said Xi Jinping's, the Chinese leader's, visit to Moscow to attend the Victory Day commemorations amounts to an official coming off the fence on the Ukraine war. In a question and answer with Sky News readers, Michael Clark said it was a big plus for Putin to get the Chinese president in Moscow. Quote, they've met many times, but this is only Xi Jinping's second visit to the country, and to go to the victory parade is a very big symbolic moment. So not a good thing in that regard. 18 foreign ministers from Europe met in Lviv, Ukraine, including the British Foreign Secretary. They signed a document supporting the establishment of a special tribunal to prosecute Vladimir Putin and other senior Russian officials over the war in Ukraine. The intention is to pursue Moscow over a crime of aggression. This is actually very good. I mean, we know it's very good, but one thing that's particularly good about this is it is another potential bargaining chip. You know, there are Ukraine doesn't have as many bargaining chips as it would like against Russia. What it has is sanctions from Europe and America, and what it has is the threat of coming after Putin and top officials for war crimes. Putin has already been indicted for war crimes in just one instance. The fact that the Russians have been kidnapping Ukrainian children, they've been kidnapping them and transporting them to Russia to turn them into Russians. The children are being told their parents are dead, or even, I think even more horrific possibly, they're lied, by the way, they're lied to and told their parents are dead when they're not, or they tell them your parents don't love you anymore and wanted to get rid of you, which blows my mind. But in any case, so this is another potential bargaining chip that the Ukrainians will have and the Europeans, frankly, will have over the Russians. Now, this is also a bargaining chip with America, so to speak, because we worry about the Trump administration walking away. Well, if you've got these war crimes and things that the Europeans are a part of, meaning a part of the tribunal, it's not like Trump can just kill the war crimes investigation, right? You need the Europeans to help do that too, and the Ukrainians to help do that. So anyway, I think this is a good thing for Ukraine on multiple levels. Finally, Reuters reports that Iran is preparing to deliver in the near future launchers for short-range ballistic missiles that the U.S. said Tehran sent to Russia last year for use against Ukraine. All right, that is it for today's show. I mean, we're not gone. I'm not going to leave, but that is it for the news. So now let's sit and talk like we always do. So pick a little, talk a little, pick a little, talk a little. I like that song. Anyway, let's hang and talk, guys. Oh, that's the quote. Okay. Alan Ramsey has the Stephen Miller quote. Stephen Miller says the White House is looking into suspending habeas corpus, which protects people from unlawful detentions. A lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. Okay, I didn't know that. I had not seen that quote. Habeas corpus, and I hope I don't explain this. I am a lawyer, but I don't practice. Hopefully I can explain this well. Habeas corpus literally means to have the body, okay, in Latin. And it is a doctrine basically whereby if you are detained, if the government arrests you or detains you in even if it's not an arrest, if they pick you up and put you in a cell, they've got to go to a judge and prove that the detention is lawful, that they abided by the law in putting you there. I hope I'm explaining this well enough, but that's the concept of habeas corpus. So what Stephen Miller is talking about is that basically the Trump administration wants to be able to arrest people in America, and the people will not have a right to go to court. Basically, you won't have the right to go to court to say, wait a minute, that wasn't a legal arrest. Yeah. Lovely people. Lovely people. Well, can they suspend it, Jeannie asks? Stephen Miller, the White House aide, is saying a lot of it depends on whether the courts do the right thing or not. So he's saying, yeah, it all depends on what the courts say. If the Supreme Court says Trump can suspend it, then he can suspend it. My guess is they're going to try to have the conservative courts suspend it for foreigners. That's my guess. They're going to try to get conservative I'm just guessing here, but I think they're going to try to get conservative judges to basically, oops, my sunlight's coming in here. There we go. That's a little better. They're going to try to get conservative judges to suspend it for foreigners and say that, well, Americans have the right to go to court if they get arrested, but foreigners don't. And I would still be very surprised if the courts would agree with that. Because can we throw foreigners in jail forever without going to trial, for example? I mean, just because somebody says they jaywalked or whatever. I mean, right? Like, yeah. Let's see. I don't even know whether a conservative court would agree to that, but and yes, what foreigner would ever visit? I don't think any foreigner should visit this country. Honestly, what I mean is I wouldn't be caught dead coming to this country if I were a foreigner. That's what I mean. I want you all. I wish you'd come under normal times, but right now I would never recommend a foreigner visit our country. I don't think it's safe. You know, I mean, I had to have a discussion with a family member flying internationally coming back to the US about whether or not their cell phone was going to be investigated and read through, whether the border agents were going to read their phone and read their computer. And we were literally debating, like, what should you do if they do that? We're Americans. We were born here. I mean, like, it doesn't get any more American than that, right? I mean, that's to be an American and to worry that crossing the border, they're going to break into your cell phone. I mean, that's really scary stuff, especially nowadays when think about it too. The cell phone, and the courts have got to sort of figure this. I'm trying to move. Actually, that's okay in the sun. Yeah, that is okay because the sun's not hitting the top. Your cell phone has everything. Your cell phone has absolutely everything. I mean, it's your banking, it's your dating, it's your sex life, it's your personal life with your kids and your spouse, your personal communications. It's your communications from work. So it's all of your business. It's your medical communications. I mean, everything is on your cell phone nowadays, really. It's very scary. It's very, very scary. So anyway, but it really is. And I think, and the courts have not really caught up to that. Basically, the courts haven't quite, figured that one out. Thank you, Craig, for the corgi. It's really scary. Oh, are we at the time? It's time. Dog needs water. One moment. One moment. All right. More water for you. All right, you. All right. Okay, there we go. All right. More water for the dog. There we go. Man, oh man, oh man, oh man. You don't think it's safe for Americans if it's other countries? Of course it is. Absolutely safe. Absolutely safe. Depending on the country, but Europe is totally safe. Canada is totally safe. Absolutely. Yeah. But it is. It's totally safe. I was just in Italy. Fine. I was in Singapore and Indonesia last year. Well, last year, pre-Trump, they were fine. No. No. Right. You may want to get a burner, unfortunately. A secondary phone you take when you go abroad. It sucks, but so Mexico, I don't know. But I mean, the thing is, it depends what people mean by safe. The only reason I'm not saying Mexico is I don't know what the crime situation is in Mexico. Generally speaking, I haven't been to Mexico in 30 years. I love Mexico though, but it's been 30 years since I've been there. Manana says, I'm a US citizen living in Latvia. I was in India last month and it was fine. Yeah. I don't think it's dangerous. It's not dangerous for you anywhere as an American now versus 6 months ago. That's not the case. No. So, that's a good question, Chuck. And I don't know. Chuck says, what more sanctions can we put on Russia besides oil? I don't know what else there is. And the problem with oil is, there's some sanctions already in terms of trying to keep the price of oil down and stuff like that for Russia. But, it affects Europe and it affects, I don't know whether the U.S. gets much. The U.S. was getting natural gas from Russia. I'm not sure if we were getting much else. But the Europeans, I think, still get oil. And I also don't know how China and India would feel too, if that comes down to it as well. So I don't, but I think it's a very good question as to what other sanctions could we really put on Russia. I'm not really curious. I'm not really sure what else there is, Jonathan, what was that? Jonathan, I was given a hard time coming back to the U.S. due to a road atlas from Canada last week. What do you mean? I'm dying to hear what that story is. A, are you American? And B, what happened? Dying to hear that one. Tell us more in the comments here. Deep. Correct. Rick says if the Trump's sort of investment in rare earth mineral mining in Ukraine, will he not want to protect his investment? Does that mean providing Ukraine military protection? He will want to protect the investment. Yes. Whether that means militarily, who knows? But it's this is why I said that actually, even though I didn't like that, I felt like Trump was strong. Trump was strong arming Ukraine. I like that now the U.S. has a financial interest in Ukraine's future, which means it makes it a little harder for the Russians to bomb things and to invade and take over things, because now they're going after American, whether it's American-owned things or at least things that have an American investment in them. So very interesting. Very interesting. Just looking. Oh, okay. Jonathan has not weighed in yet about his atlas. All right. Anyway, you can ask a question, Nate, but you better be good. I just think sometimes you feel like you're here to cause trouble. That's what we mean by trolls. Disagreeing is okay. Being a dick is never okay. And there's a difference. So feel free to ask, but ask something sincerely. Don't ask something to be a jerk. That's all I ask for. I don't mind when people ask things that we disagree with or whatever. That's fine. Just don't be a jerk. So go ahead, but just don't be a jerk. No, because it's true. I've said this like on gay rights issues and stuff. People would say, well, I've got kind of a stupid question. And I'd be like, if you're sincere, ask your stupid question. I don't mind, right? Because like they wanted to know something, but they thought it was kind of stupid what they were about gay relationships or whatever. And they thought it was stupid. And I was like, no, it's not stupid. You don't know and you want to learn. You earnestly want to learn. That's great, right? So that's the difference versus somebody going like, hey, I got a question for you. And then, right? And then the nasty stuff comes out. That's the difference. The trade deal. Oh yeah. So the trade deal. So the more I actually, I did copy some news on this today and I forgot to put it in the update. We're getting more details on Donald Trump's super trade deal with the UK. And you'll be shocked to hear that it doesn't seem to be what Trump claimed it was. What a surprise. What a surprise. Yeah, we could talk about India and Pakistan. There's not too much going on yet. We're still kind of waiting for Pakistan. Pakistan started doing some response militarily, but they said this was not the response. The big response is still coming from Pakistan. So we're still kind of waiting to see what Pakistan does and whether they do something proportional or whether they kind of go crazy and then the Indians blow them up, basically. Jonathan says, I'm an American. I had an atlas just in case. They wanted to know why? They wanted to know why you had an atlas? What were you like? Because it's easier to read than my little phone? The problem is you don't want to be a jerk to them, but I would have been like, because it has maps in it and I use the maps to drive and not get lost. Again, it's hard not to say it in a way that's rude, right? Because it's a map. It's this thing we old people use to drive and not get lost. A map. Oh, that's a good point too, Jonathan. Cell phones don't work everywhere. That's a good point. Well, also like your cell phone's this big. I don't use maps anymore, but the atlases were anybody who's too young to know, atlases were these magazines we used to bring that had maps in them. And for example, traveling across the US, we would get an atlas that had every state in the US, and it would have like two pages like this of map, paper page of the entire state. And it would show all the main highways and all the main roads for getting across the state. And then it would often have like a blow up area of the main city. Like Illinois might have Chicago or something. Yeah, AAA, exactly. And you would, before we had cell phones and internet, this was your map, and they were very useful. So it's funny, people may not drive with them much anymore, but they actually would be very useful to have in your car if you're literally traveling cross country and you're trying to look and go, okay, I kind of want to see the whole state and figure out where we're going, what's more useful. It's not a terrible idea. Yeah. But also you kind of want to go, oh, there she is. Sasha's back on the ottoman for the YouTube Discord people. Let's see. TikTok. Can you see? Oh, you can see. There she is on TikTok. She's right there on the couch, kind of hanging. Hello, you. But yeah, the maps were really useful. I know before MapQuest. Yeah. I remember my mom, like once we got the maps on our phone, I still remember my mom and dad would be like, okay, so when you get downtown, like Chicago, you need to go here. And I'm like, Mom, all I need is the address. Like my phone will literally tell me how to get there. Like it was the most amazing sort of development. Now that's interesting. Bishop says tall buildings interfered with GPS in Chicago. I had that happen in New York City back in 2016 when I was moving to New York, or 2015. 2015, I was moving to New York, and we're crossing crosstown, driving from DC. I rented a car or whatever, or a van to put a lot of my stuff in. And I'm with my friend Damien, who you all know. And we're going crosstown across New York, and the GPS is getting confused. But the thing is, the GPS was literally getting confused. So all of a sudden, it's like space aliens coming. It's like, go left, then go left, then go left, then go left. And you're like, that's around the block. Like, what are you talking about? It could not figure, and it would lose the signal, and the signal would come back, but it wouldn't just lose the signal, it would get confused and kept rerouting. There you go. Mom is saying the same thing. It would just keep rerouting you. And we finally just were like, oh, this sucks. So I think what we had to do was get the map. I don't even know if we must have pulled over, and I had to get the map out and basically look at the map on my phone and go, okay, what are we doing? Because we had to find that bridge, actually, it would have been to Long Island City. It would have been the tunnel, whatever that tunnel is by 42nd Street or 38th Street or whatever the hell. I don't even know anymore. It was not fun. It was not fun at all. It worked finally, but damn, it was hard. But the funniest part with New York was because we were driving like kind of a big van. It was like a moving van, but it wasn't one of the huge trucks, but it was a moving truck. And so it was big and not easy to drive in the sense of you're big. And I remember, again, especially for the going across town, turning, but also like taking was it Williamsburg? It wasn't a bridge though. It was I don't know if it was Lincoln Tunnel. It was the tunnel though that takes you to Long Island. It was the tunnel that goes to Long Island, whether it's the Lincoln Tunnel, but that's around 38th Street or whatever it is, something like 35th Street, whatever. And I had Damien because we were at Queensboro. Maybe that's what it is. Queensboro sounds right though. It might be Queensboro. But we were trying to change lanes. Like I had to change lanes and I couldn't do it because there were like, it's bumper to bumper traffic. You're in a huge vehicle and it's New York. And I was like, Damien, get out the window and wave to people. I said, just do it. And Damien's out the window and he's like, oh, can we go in? Every time Damien would wave to a New Yorker and say, can we go in? They would stop the car and let us go in. Blew Midtown Tunnel. Okay, maybe it blew my mind how helpful. I mean, because, on the road, people are terrible, but all it needed was Damien waving and saying, please. And people stopped every time and let us cut in. The best part though, was the license plate, because rental companies now have license plates from all over. The license plate said California or something. And somebody, I don't remember exactly what the person said, but one of the guys, again, New York, I love New York. One of the guys in his car, Damien waves, the guy stops and lets us go. And he yells something like, you're not in California anymore. It was the funniest damn thing. I mean, I was like, what is he talking about? Damien goes, our license plates are California. I said, oh God, that's hilarious. But it blew my mind though, like literally rolling down the window and waving, and the New Yorkers would let you cut in. Yeah, I like New York. New Yorkers, in the workplace, they're assholes, to be honest. They really are. I mean, not just the United Nations, I was doing consulting to the most cutthroat, nasty human beings on the planet in the office. I think the work ethic in New York is nasty. They're just nasty people. That was my experience. They were just nasty people in offices to each other versus here in DC. But on the street, walking my dog, etc., people couldn't be nicer. I really did. I love New Yorkers. But also I'm Chicago, so we're like loud and whatever. And that kind of goes over well in New York, But the work climate was horrific. Yeah, unfortunately. But what do you do? But like I said, driving, all you had to do was wave. Much nicer, Daniel says drivers are completely different between New York, Chicago, and LA. I don't know. Is there a Chicago accent? Oh God, yes. Are you kidding? Oh my God. I mean, I've got a Chicago accent, but it's not as strong as others because I've been gone a long time. But for example, Chicago accent. I say accent. That's already a Chicago accent, but it's even stronger. Chicagoans might say accent. The Pope's got a strong Chicago accent, actually. My sister has a strong Chicago accent. She left me a message once. Her name is Kathy. She left me a message once. And I remember it was, back when we had machines, I remember listening to my machine and she goes, hi, John, it's Kathy. It was John and Kathy. I remember coming back from studying abroad in France. And I remember even I caught the way people would say the word dime, like DIME, which is a 10-cent piece. And we say dime. Now, Chicagoans will say dime. I don't say dime, but I say dime, which is still pretty strong. Wisconsin, there's no way to say the O. The O we all say very strongly, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like Wisconsin, we say Wisconsin. Even I say Wisconsin probably less than Ashley might. Ashley might have an even stronger accent. But even when I say Wisconsin, people go, "Where are you from?" I'm like, Chicago. They go, okay. Because they would say like, I don't know if they'd say Wisconsin, something like that. I don't know. But we say Wisconsin. We say, ah. Anyway, so yes, Chicago has a very strong accent. Yep. Very strong accent. I like that. I heard no difference. To an American, it's a strong difference. It's a very strong difference to an American. Like I said, they would hear me say Wisconsin, and they'd go, I mean, I don't say Wisconsin, but I'd say Wisconsin. Sausage. I don't say sausage. I say sausage. But I told you the problem. We talked about, by the way, towards the end of the show, we usually do this where we talk about whatever. So don't get upset if it's not politics. I have a problem with my Google because I try to ask it to turn my TV on and off, and it can't understand what I'm saying because I say on and off. I say the words differently. I was asking people on Twitter, and I asked you guys this too. Many Americans say the words with the same vowel sound, and Google is from California. And I'm going to guess California uses the different vowel sound. So I tell it to turn on or off, and my Google gets confused and does the opposite. And it can't understand it. Because I'll say on and off. So off like awe, A-W-E, off. On like capon, maybe? I don't know what, or cason? I'm not sure what kind of on. So on versus off, right? And Google cannot understand me. It cannot understand me at all. And I finally and people were saying, well, on and off? Is it on and off, you guys say? Or on and off, I think? So many Americans say the two words with the same vowel. And if you jump in, feel free. But some of you do. I'm sure some of you do say it with the same vowel. Because I asked people online before, and they were like, oh, yeah. BC says it more like me. You're right, on and off. But they'll say like on and off, like on and off. Although off, that almost sounds like Northeast to me. You know? W in there, on, off. We do kind of say aw, off. Yeah. Okay, see, Swifty says same vowel sounds. That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Many Americans say it with the same vowels. Yep. I have no idea who that is, Casey. Or Stephanie, I have no idea who that is. So. On is pronounced own in Bama. In Alabama? Own? Oh, like they say own? Like turn it on? Oh, that's funny. Turn it on. Yeah, Boston. Well, Boston's going to be its own accent, of course. Yeah. Wisconsin. Oh, that's funny. So you know the sounds if she's from Wisconsin. Jersey. Yeah. Well, and New York is its own, although Chicago has some similarities to the New York accent. Well, there's many New York accents, of course, too. But we've got many similarities. I was watching a TikToker today or Instagram who specializes in, what do you call it? Languages and linguistics and stuff. Worcester. Yeah. Anyway, Wisconsin. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Kathy says, at a shop in San Francisco, the clerk called her coworkers over to hear my Southern accent. Oh, that's hilarious. I did get my packages from UPS Tiger Eye, but my brother-in-law still has to measure them so I can get them sent out. Oh, actually, I got to tell my nephew. Ooh. Make sure your dad measures and weighs my packages. Precisely. There we go. I forgot my nephew's back finally. He's back in the States. So he was going to check for me on that. But yes, they're back. They're back. Thank you, Mark, for the gifts. Thank you. Exactly. Well, the Canadians, we know about you guys and your boot. Yuns. Oh, yuns. I've heard that, Katie. Yeah, West Virginia, they say yuns for you all. Fish, gorfish. Oh, fish for fish. Oh, that's interesting. Ewans, I've heard. Chicago, use guys. I don't say use guys. Some Chicagoans do say use guys. I'd say you guys. I would say you guys, but not use guys. Now, living out east, I've learned to say you all. Or I wouldn't say y'all. Y'all I would not say because I'm not a Southerner. But thank you for the hat there, Eddie. But I would say you all. Are you all? And I might do it. It depends on who I'm talking to, which ethnic group, etc. If I'm talking to a Black community, I might say you all. Because again, different language, because there tends to be more of a Southern dialect for African Americans in this town. So stuff like that, you all. But I wouldn't say y'all. Y'all, I'd feel like an idiot. Like y'all, how y'all doing? Y'all. But we would say you, but people out here would say you all. But whereas in Chicago, I don't think we'd say you all. We'd say you guys. Yeah. I don't. If we're being formal, I don't know if we'd say. Yeah, I can't pull off y'all. I don't know if being formal in Chicago, would we say you all, Ashley? Like if you're trying to be proper, like something, I don't know, you're in court or something, would you say, are you all blah, blah, blah? From Midwest, I'm trying to think. We wouldn't say you guys in a formal setting. Yeah, yo. You know what I mean? You all? Yeah, Ashley's agreeing with me. Yeah. Use guys, I know. But you guys, but I would say you guys, but I still wouldn't do it in a formal setting. You all informal. Like, that's what I was thinking. Yeah. You all. Yep. Whereas here, you all would be informally as well, potentially on the East Coast, or at least DC, which is a little more Southern. Proper would be, is everyone? Oh, I didn't think of that. That's true. The proper would see, instead of, are you all going? Is everyone going? That's a good point. I didn't think of that. Are all of you going? Taco Jim just said, yeah. Are all of you going? Yeah. Actually, you're right. Are all of you? Wouldn't be you all. I feel like you all would still be somebody in the, yeah, those who say this, exactly. I feel like somebody in Chicago would look at you funny if you said you all. They'd go, you mean, are all of us going? That's exactly what they go. They go, you mean, are all of us going? And you'd be like, yes, that's what I meant. So, but yeah, use. Oh, see, I would never say use. Are yous going? You'd say use? I mean, use guys I've heard, but I wouldn't say it. But you'd say use? Like, are yous going? Seriously? That's Irish? Or is it Irish American, you mean? Did we hit 100,000? We hit 100,000 on TikTok. Excellent. Jersey says use. That's funny. Use. That's just so funny. Are yous going? But when you say Irish, though, do you mean Irish American or Irish? Well, the question I was going to say, the question probably is, it could be more city related than ethnic related, potentially. Oh, Irish. Oh, that's interesting. Thank you, Super Hornet, for the gift. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, wow. Okay. And Irish, we mean, like, we say that Greek. We say, are you Greek or are you Greek? Like, I'm Greek, but I'm not Greek. Greek meaning from Greece. So Irish would be Irish people from Ireland versus Irish Americans. Use, that's funny. Yeah, because to me it sounds like really bad Chicago. Like, use going. I can't even do Chicago. I think I'd have to do like a New York accent, like a New York mafia accent. I use going to the bank to rob it. But again, use guys is just funny. I find it very funny. Yeah. That's Italian American. That's funny. Use going. I don't know how you'd spell it. So, like, who knows? Yeah, it's used in Little Italy in Chicago. Okay, so it is a very Chicago Italian. I mean, again, I knew it because it was also a very Mayor Daley thing, who was the mayor back like 50, 60 years ago. But he they would say also things like D's and dos for these and those with a D, like D's and dos. It's very French. Well, what, use like vous? I didn't think of that. If use is based on like vous, like vous. Interesting. I don't know. Voi in Italian. So same idea, but use. I don't know. I think it's just some weird slang. Yeah. We'd have to ask and see like what the origin of I don't know if ChatGPT can answer that one for me or not. Can it give me like the origin? Let's try it and see. I don't know if it's good. Let's see. ChatGPT. Hold on. Just for fun. ChatGPT. Here, I'll get my glasses so I can see this. Although I think I can talk to it. What is the origin of the slang expression use? No. Of course, it's not going to spell it right. Of the slang expression use for you guys. Used in Chicago. All right. Let's see what it says. Of course, ChatGPT may just lie about it, but we'll see. Let's see. Oh, stop it. All right. Origin of the slang expression use for you guys, for your guys. Slang expression use, as in use guys, is a plural form of you, commonly heard in parts of the northeastern and midwestern U.S., including Chicago, New York City, and Philadelphia. Its origin is tied to immigrant speech patterns, particularly Irish and Italian immigrant influence. There you go. That's funny, though, that you guys said Irish and Italian. Irish and Italian immigrant influence. Many immigrants to Chicago and other urban centers in the late 19th and 20th centuries spoke English dialects or learned English as a second language. In Irish English, adding an S to you, use, was a natural way to form the plural. Irish speakers brought this pattern with them. I had no idea. That's why I'm impressed it actually got it. Similarly, Southern Italian immigrants whose native languages had clear plural nouns, voi in Italian, exactly, often tried to pluralize you in English with use. Voi. For Italian, it's a little weirder because in Italian, it's tu or voi. That's not really the same. You know what I mean? Filling the plural pronoun gap. Standard English lacks a distinct second person pronoun. You is singular and plural. As a result, dialects invented plural forms. Yous in Chicago, New York, and Philly. Y'all in southern U.S. Yins, Pittsburgh. Yins, Y-I-N-Z. That's funny. And you guys nationwide. Interesting. Oh, Chicago dialect and working class speak. In Chicago, yous became especially common among working class neighborhoods, particularly Irish, Polish, and Italian Americans. It remained a regionalism often associated with older generations or stereotypical Chicago speech. Think, da Bears, yous guys go into the game? Da Bears, yous guys go into the game? That's funny. That's funny. It's going to give me examples of pop culture and literature. So it's commonly used in Ireland. Use. That's fascinating. God, I'd laugh if I heard that. That's really funny. Use guys. Use bums. It's so funny. Yeah. Mike Royko, use politicians are all the same. A cabbie might say in a Royko column, use politicians. Yeah. How interesting. Huh. Okay. That's fascinating. You say yeast? Yeast? Is it yeast or yes for Scotland? Is it like an I or an E? Yes or yees? That's really interesting. Wow. I mean, I will say, like, I always knew it as kind of a, I don't want to be rude about this, but kind of a lower class thing. Like it was lower class, working class would be used in Chicago, would be how I knew of it. No one I knew ever said it. I never knew anybody who spoke like that. It would be fascinating to meet somebody who spoke like that. But yeah, ask and axe, that's a whole other weird thing. Yeah, I don't even, we'll get it. Yeah, that's its own weird. Yeah. Yeah. What else? Ewan's all? Deeper South? Ewan's all? Instead of y'all? Oh, that's funny. Ewan's all. That's funny. Very interesting. Ave, I don't even know what that is. I told a lady in a shop yesterday what part of London she came from by the way she said chocolate, being a Londoner yourself. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. You guys have different ways of saying chocolate? Actually, I did watch, which I thought was interesting, Daniel Radcliffe. I just happened to, actually, I'm watching Killing Eve, which I said, and the lead actress is freaking amazing. Not Sandra Oh, the murderer. Jodie Comer, I think is her name. Oh my God. She's insanely good. She plays a psychopath who's a Russian. So her main accent is Russian, but she also uses other accents depending on, what character, like, because she's an assassin, what she's playing. Her accents are amazing. Her character is a psychopath and she's just amazing. But I was watching an interview with her on the Graham Norton show or whatever, and they had Daniel Radcliffe and they were asking him about doing accents. And he said, his big problem was doing an American accent he said there were two words he couldn't do. He goes, I finally have them down, but I couldn't get them originally. And I'm trying to think what they were. The two words Daniel Radcliffe Because I heard them and I was like, oh, that's really funny. Oh shit, now I'm forgetting. I may have to Google this because now I'm trying to think of what it was. It was really interesting. I'll Google it here. It was 2 words in American English that he had a problem with. And when he said it, I kind of laughed. I was like, oh, that's really funny. Daniel Radcliffe, difficulty to American words, I should say, to American words. Okay, not wires. I don't know if it's going to come up though. All right. Oh, come on. I've got to find this. Does anybody know? No, they were 2 great words, and it was funny hearing him say them because the Brits do say it differently. Hold on. Daniel, difficult to pronounce American words. Let's see. Oh, you guys, you're right about badass. Taco Jim, I thought you were kidding. Taco Jim said badass. He specifically acknowledged that the word badass as an example, explaining that his natural pronunciation of ass would sound unnatural and that bad arse sounds overly posh. Actually, bad arse doesn't sound overly posh. Bad arse sounds wrong because we don't say arse in American English. People would literally look at you and go, what the hell is that? So it doesn't sound proper. It just sounds wrong. He also noted that saying y'all is difficult because it requires a different articulation than he's used to. Oh, that's interesting. Interesting. Y'all is hard to say for a Brit. Interesting. I mean, for British people out there, is saying y'all hard or although maybe you haven't heard the word, so you'd have to like y'all, because it is actually, it does have a y'all. It's like y'all. It's kind of got a weird sound to it. You know, y'all. It's almost like, it's actually all, A-W-L, y'all is the way I would spell it. Y-A-W-L, like all, which I think is a word. Drawl. Actually, that's right. It's got the drawl. Well, actually, it is like the word drawl with a Y. Drawl. Although I don't know how the Brits say drawl. Oh, this is going to annoy me here. What is... I'm going to ask ChatGPT. I don't know if it's going to find it. Let's see. I will be very impressed if ChatGPT can find this. I was watching an interview of Daniel Radcliffe on Graham Norton, and he mentioned there were 2 American words that he has a very difficult time pronouncing with an American accent, period. Do you remember what the words are? It may come up with badass, though, which isn't what I'm looking for. They were totally other words, and I was like, oh, that's really funny. Oh, is this true? Mirror and squirrel? Is that true? Mirror? I don't think these were the words. I don't think. Okay, wait, are you sure? Watch it say no. I think ChatGPT made that up. Mirror and squirrel? That's not right. I don't think that's right, though. I don't think that's right. Oh. Yeah. Okay. First of all, it admitted that it wasn't from Graham Norton. They admitted that, first of all. This is what, again, they lie like this. They're now saying it's from a Wired interview. He specifically pointed out mirror and squirrel as challenging to pronounce with an American accent. Oh, that's funny. Mirror. Funny. Mirror and squirrel. And for any of you who are British or Irish or Scottish out there or whatever, mirror and mirror, we would say mirror. So mirror. We'd say mirror and squirrel. Squirrel, that's funny. I guess, what do you guys overpronounce it like squirrel or something? Squirrel. Because I guess, well, we would pronounce it without the E. It'd be SQUIRL. I'm using 4.0 right now. No, this is the Graham Norton one. He had 2 other words on Graham Norton. I'm not going to find it. But the words in Graham Norton were interesting too. Mirror said by an American sounds wrong, like you're not pronouncing the letters mirror. Well, because it's mirror. We're saying mirror, actually, is what we're saying, mirror. I think we're saying mirror, like M-E-E-R, mirror. I think we're saying mirror. Yeah, we're saying mirror. You're right. That is what we're saying. We're not saying mirror. I don't even think we pronounce the first R. Mirror. Mirror. You know what? We're doing almost an Irish thing. We're almost doing two R's. We're going mirror. 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 But we're not doing mirror. We're saying mirror. We're doing two R's in a row almost, right? Get the dog more water. I think we're doing 2 hours in a row. More water, you? All right. I wish I could remember what the other one was. God. Yeah, it's bumming me out now. It was 2 words in particular. He has a lot of different words. It was 2 words in particular, but it was very interesting. Actually, let me look and see. Of course, YouTube's going to get very upset if I do this. Jodie Comer, Ratcliffe, Graham Norton. Comer. I don't want the full. I want the snippet. Oh, it's going to be too long of an interview, though. Yeah, it's too long of an interview. Well, I will try to find this, and I will. I'm looking at it because that woman there, I recognize the other woman who was there. I could try one more thing. Graham Norton, American words. Let's try that. This is the clip. This is the clip. Hold on a second. I'm going to pull this up and try to have it on low because I don't want like, oh, come on, stop it. I love when YouTube does this. YouTube is making me log in again. Facebook. I'm like, oh, geez, stop that. All right, YouTube, let me check here. Wait. Yeah, languages and things. Hold on. Was that something? I don't see English. Hold on. I want to see. Oh, here we go. Hold on. I'll tell you. Here we go. Radcliffe. Girlfriend. There you go. Oh, you got it. Embarrassed American. Got it. How did you know that? Or did you Google it and pull it up? That's exactly right. That's what it was. It was girlfriend and murderer. Girlfriend and murderer. He goes, I've got them now. But he goes, at the beginning, they were really confusing and he couldn't get it down. Yeah. Girlfriend and murderer, which is funny. I don't know how you guys say it, but girlfriend, and murderer. Murderer is funny because murderer, I guess we may eat the word a little more too. Squirrel, squirrel. Also, well, it's like saying water too. I think Callum had this. All the Brits I know can never order water in America because they always go, what is it? Water or what? Well, actually, do you overpronounce it or do you underpronounce? I forget. Or do you what? Or do you say war? Either you say war or do you say water? I forget which. No. Or you say what? What do you say? Water? I forgot how you guys say it, but you say it in a way that no one can understand. And I have always had to help my British friends. I remember being at restaurants and them asking for it and me going, he wants some water. and now I love it because they're always like, oh, okay. And they would look at me and go, what are you talking about? I'm like, water. Actually, I think Maiden's vibe is right. It was like water. Something weird like that. But we say water. But I've also had it happen in the UK. Asking for water as an American, I'd have to say, I remember once asking for it and she went, huh? And I said, and literally, even now, I was like, water? I said, water? And she went, oh, okay. I was like, all I could think of was maybe if I hyper pronounce it, water. But I think, water, or would you guys underpronounce and say war or whatever? Like, I forget what. Yeah, H2O. Actually, I did have that in Paris once. I needed peroxide. I don't remember why, but I needed peroxide, H2O2. And I go into the French pharmacy and I was like, I'm looking for some peroxide. I said, okay, I'm looking for something, and I'm speaking French. I said, I'm looking for something. I don't know what the word is in French. I said, I think I didn't have my cell phone, whatever it was at the time. Actually, yeah, whatever I didn't have. And I said, I said, hydrogène peroxide? And she looked at me, she goes, no. And I said, okay, H2O2. And she goes, eau or de l'eau oxygénée. Exactly. And I went, and I went, oxygenated water. And I went, oh, I said, yeah, that's it. Because I was like, oh, oxygenated water. You took H2O and added another O to it, makes it H2O2. You oxygenated the water. But I thought that was wild. I was like, oxygenated water. And I was like, oh, oui. But it's funny, like that kind of stuff. Like if I literally said like H2O2, I'm like, do you know the chemical formula? So very funny. Yeah. Eau oxygénée. I don't think that's carbonated. Is carbonated? Well, no, because peroxide's different. That's not carbonated. Carbonated is water that you've got CO2 in. But I think the CO2 is, I don't know if it's free floating or what it is. They're not the same thing. We know they're not, right? We know peroxide is something different. But I don't know, like when it's made, how it's made differently or whatever. You know, I think, first of all, CO2 probably is bubbled through the water and then sort of adds the CO2 to the, I don't, actually, it's a good question. What is the chemical? Okay, now we're doing another ChatGPT question. I'm going to go after this because it's 7:30, but now you've got another ChatGPT question. You've got me. Let's ask, what is the difference between bubbly water, comma, and hydrogen peroxide, period? Do both of them have added oxygen to the water, or is it because of the CO2 in the bubbly water makes it a difference? See if it even understands my question, you know? Yes, we know that. Bubbly water. Okay, bubbly water is a different formula. That's what I thought. It's a different compound. Yep. Bubbly water, the water remains H2O. The CO2, a carbon dioxide, forms carbonic acid, H2CO3, when it reacts slightly with water. But this is reversible. When you open the bottle, the pressure drops and the CO2 gas escapes. So the carbonic acid, H2CO3, the CO2 leaves. Oh, right. CO2 leaves. From CO3, you lose CO2. That leaves you with one O, H2O. So H2CO3 turns into H2O when you lose the CO2. So the difference is H2O2 is peroxide, H2CO3 is carbonated water. Okay, that makes sense. Well, actually, yeah. And no, I mean, obviously they're different, but it's an interesting question. But I guess, right, the difference is we knew that there was carbon with the CO2, and we knew that with peroxide, it's just oxygen. I find this stuff fascinating. I really do. See, chemistry became useful for the first time in 45 years. Okay, 40 years, whatever, right? You know, it's like chemistry flashbacks. Yep. Occasionally I find, actually math is what I find more useful, which is funny. You know, the bubbles are CO2 the bubbles in peroxide are oxygen, and the bubbles in carbonated water or bubbly water are going to be CO2. They're carbon dioxide. Yep. I know my chem teacher's rolling over in their grave going, he got it right. It's like, yeah, oh God. I took organic chemistry. That was horrific. That was when I dropped out of science. I was like, it was the worst subject ever. Just horrific. So, all right. We've been doing an hour and a half, guys. Let's call it quits. All right. Thanks for joining us. Tomorrow morning, I've got the show for the paid monthly subscribers. So join us tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. Eastern time, US. Your daughter's doing veterinary science. Fun. Tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the paid subscribers. And the rest of you, I'll be back Monday at 6 o'clock Eastern time, US. And we will continue with the news from the US and the news from Ukraine and everywhere else. And these fun discussions we have about everything stupid afterwards. So there we go. Yep. Thanks for hanging out. You guys as well. Thank you, Sarah. The rest of you. And I will see you all on Monday. All right. I see some of you tomorrow. So Discord, let me hang up on you first, then YouTube, and then TikTok. So 1 second here. Barbarossa, you're the last one we got over on Discord. We didn't know we still had somebody. All right. Discord's gone. YouTube, bye-bye. All right. And then TikTok.